Good morning and welcome. Hello. It is I, the OGGM. It's 8 o'clock in the morning, and it's the 16th day of May, 2022. It's 57 degrees and cloudy here at Site B. The OGGM cat is laying by my feet. And it's time to take a look at the tabletop role-playing game news, and oh my gosh. This is actually my second recording of this because I got so lost on the first one because there's so much stuff going on. So I've decided to keep this short and just address the highlights of what's going on, and then we can tear apart some of the more interesting stories. Let's start with bundles. Dun, 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 dun. Because, you know, what's more fun than free shit? Unfortunately, it's a bunch of 5e stuff. So you're either going to be happy about this if you're a 5e fan, or if you're not a 5e fan, you're not going to be happy. And if you don't care and you just want free stuff, great. Most of these are going to be available at Drive-Thru or Humble Bundle or those kind of places. But if you are old enough to remember that in the 1990s, there were some Dragonlance-themed video games, Dragonlance Nexus has upgraded those video games. If they've gone into the code and they've rewritten them and they've made it playable on today's computers with today's bells and whistles, and it's free. So head on over to the Dragonlance Nexus and start downloading those classic 1990 Dragonlance games. Dungeon Masters Guild has a bunch of sales going up. These are all free for some 5e and 3.5 to convert it to 5e spells. We've got some new options for Mordecaians that are also free over at Dungeon Masters Guild and Drive-Thru through Cypher. This one's my favorite, so I'm going to come back to this one real quick. We've got some more stuff on Drive-Thru for 5e, some new patrons and stuff that are available in packages. This is all free 5e. There's a Trouble with Dreams, which is an adventure for 5e, and a Found in Darkness, which is an adventure for Pathfinder. The best way to go is just to go to Drive-Thru or DM's Guild and go search for product, Dungeons & Dragons, search for edition, 5, and then price range, free or pay what you want. And these will all come up. All right. So my favorite of all these freebies is there is now free for you to get a diploma to show you graduated Strixhaven. So you could download this diploma, and it looks like an official diploma, and then you just write in the name of your player character. And then you can go, look, my player character, Steve the Barbarian, graduated from Strixhaven with a degree in Strixhaven. So my question is, how real is this diploma look? How real does it look? Could I download it, write in my name, and then act like it's a real diploma to a real school and see how many people would actually fall for it? Like if I put on a resume, graduate Strixhaven, is there somebody out there who would actually think there's a real school called Strixhaven and be like, oh, dude, you got a degree from Strixhaven? Because that would be hilarious. So I'm actually, as much as I dislike the Strixhaven product, might download this just because it's free and just to see if I could convince somebody that I actually have a real live degree from a real college that is Strixhaven who doesn't know that Strixhaven doesn't actually exist, because that would be hilarious. Moving on, we have some bundles. We have some Drive-Thru bundles. Looks like Drive-Thru is trying to get rid of a lot of their PDFs for D&D, dating back to some of the old original stuff. 16,000 titles are on sale over Drive-Thru for D&D stuff. There's a collection of D&D stuff from Skirmish Publishing available for $5. Looks like they've got about 12. From Itch.io, we have some stuff for about $10 each for the unique GM-less tabletop role-playing game community. Then the charity bundles. The two big bundles, of course, are all the bundles that are trying to make money to support Planned Parenthood. Doesn't matter what my political stance on this current situation is. It's just, like all the other bundles, is it worth the money? So the Reproductive Rights bundle hosted by Roll for Romance, which is over on itch.io, is $5 for about 300 titles. Now, out of those 300 titles, realize that about only 5 of them might actually be something you want, and the rest are like those, weird solo journaling role-playing games and other weird stuff. So $5 is a good price for 300, but and it doesn't matter what you think about the charity. You just need to go and look, am I willing to pay $5 to get 300 titles, hoping that at least in those 300 titles, there's 3 to 5 to 10 PDFs I actually want, because then it's worth it. Otherwise, it's not. The same with the one on DriveThru. On DriveThru, we have a RPG for Reproductive Justice bundle. This has got about 50 plus titles in it. It's $25. Remember, again, these are all PDFs. None of these are real. So if you're looking for some stuff, PDFs, about 50 PDFs for $25. Some of them include, looks like a couple good ones, but mostly it's, the usual stuff you find in these bundles. 3 or 4 good things, and then the ridiculousness. We've got some bundles more over that bundle of holding that aren't supporting the reproductive rights issue. We've got a bundle of Jean Morin's games for $10. We've got a bundle from James Fan for $13 for his stuff for the heroic journey. We've got 2 Shadowrun bundles for $18. You can get the Shadowrun 6 World Essentials, everything you need to run Shadowrun on PDF. And then for $15 more, we've got the second bundle, which is the Power Players thing, which is all the expansions and source books for Shadowrun. And there's a spring sale going on at Humble Bumble. A lot of the more obscure titles are marked down anywhere from 20 to 90%. So like Cyberpunk 2077 is marked down, 50% off, stuff like that. So these are other things that don't relate to D&D in some way or another. Just PDFs they're trying to get rid of. Or just, I don't know. Yeah. All right. Moving on to normal D&D and tabletop role-playing game news before we address all the weird stuff. Okay, con season is coming up. COVID is still a thing, which means each individual convention is considering which version of the COVID regulations they're going to follow. Are they going to be strict, masks on? Or are they going to be more like, So if you are considering going to any of the conventions that are going to start popping up, Gen Con, GameX, whatever, Origins, the other ones, all whether they be in the UK, here in America, wherever. If there's a convention coming up you want to go to, please go to the individual convention's website and check the current updated regulations that they are going to follow. Because I can tell you, Steve Con is saying masks on 100%. And then tomorrow the CEO of Steve Con's going to go, you know what? Screw the masks. So, yeah. Morris Unofficial Tabletop RPG is proud to announce that this will be the 200th episode of their podcast is now live over on their Twitch channel. Congratulations, Morris. There's a new magazine coming out for 5e and Level Up 5e called Gate Pass. I don't know if that's the best choice for a name. Mordekainen's presents Monsters of the Multiverse will be available on D&D Beyond. And we, of course, are losing Mordekainen's Tomb of Foes and Volo's Guide to Monsters because all the content in those 2 books are available in Mordekainen's Monsters of the Multiverse. So why have 3 books that do the exact same thing on D&D Beyond? Some people are upset about this and wondering if this is going to follow with physical product. And other people are like, I don't care. Eden Studios has announced a new edition of Midnight. This was an OGL 3.5 setting that they had. They've now updated it to 5th edition. Midnight is a fantasy setting where the bad guys won. And now you're playing characters who have to survive, thrive, do what they can to keep the world safe, assuming that Sauron or the Empire or whoever won. Also, they have announced that they're going to be releasing a lot of the Star Wars stuff for the Fantasy Flight Games version of Star Wars Forces of Destiny, or whatever it's called. Remember, Fantasy Flight Games broke off their role-playing section to become Edge Studios. Edge Studios now controls all the Fantasy Flight Games RPG stuff, or at least most of it, including the Star Wars stuff. And now they're re-releasing a lot of the stuff that currently is unavailable for Star Wars. Fallout the role-playing game is now available on virtual tabletops like Roll20. So if you're looking to play some post-apocalypse Fallout nonsense on a VTT, you can be assured that it's probably now available on your VTT of choice. Asmodee has launched a new studio called Access, which is whose goal is to adapting popular Asmodee board games to have increased accessibility. Because, board games aren't accessible enough. We need to make them more accessible. I'm not even going to touch that one. We've already talked about the various bundles for reproductive rights and stuff like that. Again, that's politics I'm not going to touch in this article. Basically, again, ignore the politics. Just go look at the bundle and go, yes, there's games I want in here, or no, screw this, there's nothing I want in here, and then decide. Don't judge it at whatever political platform you may or may not be a fan of. Just judge it on whether it's worth your money or not to download these 200 PDFs for $5. The Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers of America have a charity going up to earn money for the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers of America and World Builders. So a lot of obscure fandom stuff like signed Munchkin cards and never seen prints from Calvin and Hobbes and other stuff are being mentioned off over at the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers of America website. If I remember correctly, they used to be over in Burbank in a little teeny weird warehouse building. I think I went and gamed there a couple times. And finally, in case you haven't heard, and this is another one we're going to talk about, there's a new documentary coming out about D&D called Roleplayers. This is from XTR Studios. It will include never-before-seen archival footage and interviews with celebrity fans and astrologers. I'm not sure what Latin American astrologers have to do with D&D, but apparently it's in there. Okay, whew. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. We do know that there are some other things going on. We've got this D&D documentary to talk about and some of the negative press it's already getting. We've got the Venger Santanis drive-through RPG situation to discuss and the controversies that are spindling out of then. We've got D&D Beyond to discuss and their latest announcements regarding some other titles and what that means. But I think I've wasted your time enough, and those are all things we can talk about in separate individual blogs if you really want to follow up on them and really care about what I have to say about bundles or Venger or monkeys. Of those three, you probably care most about hearing me talk about monkeys, I assume. Till next time, I have been the OGGM. If you appreciate this content, consider subscribing. Remember, it doesn't cost you anything, and it helps me really reach that imaginary goal of 1,000 subs. Till next time, stay warm, stay dry, and as always, stay out of my fantasy post-apocalypse, you damn kids and your damn four-legged monkey. Goddamn monkeys.